The Gravity Well. The sci-fi horror short story. The first thing anyone noticed on Rig 47 was the hum. It wasn't mechanical, though the rig had plenty of that, but something deeper, a low vibration that seemed to come from the bones of the structure itself. Some said it was the accretion disk below, a swirling ocean of superheated matter orbiting the black hole like a cosmic whirlpool. Others said it was the sound of space-time stretching, groaning under the impossible forces at play. But the veterans knew better. The hum was the sound of time itself, thinning. Rig 47 hung on a tether of exotic alloys above the event horizon of G9, a black hole so massive its gravitational lensing distorted the stars into smeared halos. The rig's job was simple in theory: harvest exotic particles, gravitons, tachyonic fragments, and other quantum debris from the edge of the accretion disk. The closer they drilled, the richer the yield, and the more dangerous the distortions became. Arrival. Jalen Voss stepped off the shuttle and onto the graded walkway, boots clanging against metal that felt too thin for comfort. The air smelled of ozone and recycled coolant. A faint tremor ran through the deck. "First time this close to a singularity?" a voice asked. Jalen turned to see a woman with a shaved head and a scar running from her temple to her jaw. Her jumpsuit bore the name Cade. "Is it that obvious?" Jalen asked. Cade smirked. "You're walking like the floor might vanish. Good instinct. Sometimes it does." Jalen blinked. "That's a joke, right?" She didn't answer. Instead, she handed him a datapad. "You're assigned to Extraction Bay 3. Don't wander. Don't stare too long at the observation windows. And if you see something that looks like you, don't talk to it." Jalen laughed, but Cade didn't. "Wait," he said. "What does that mean?" "You'll find out," she said, already walking away. The crew. Extraction Bay 3 was a cavernous chamber filled with drilling arms, particle collectors, and a massive viewport that looked directly down into the swirling maelstrom of the accretion disk. The light from below was a violent, shifting orange, like a storm made of fire. The crew was small. Chief Engineer Mara Ivers, a quiet woman with eyes that never seemed to blink. Technician Holt, a broad-shouldered man who chain-vaped nicotine patches. Dr. Soren Hale, the rig's physicist who spoke in equations more than words. And now Jalen, the new extraction operator. Mara greeted him with a nod. "Stay close. The rig's been unstable." "Unstable how?" Jalen asked. Holt snorted. "Pick a direction. Time, space, sanity." Dr. Hale looked up from his console. "We're operating at a depth where relativistic effects are no longer theoretical. The closer we drill, the more the black hole's gravity distorts local spacetime. Hours here can be days out there. Or seconds. Or both." Jalen frowned. "Both?" Hale smiled thinly. "You'll see." The first fracture. Jalen's first shift was uneventful. He monitored the drilling arm, adjusted the particle collectors, and tried not to stare into the swirling abyss below. The hum of the rig grew louder the longer he worked, vibrating through his teeth. During his break, he wandered toward the observation deck. The corridor lights flickered, and for a moment he thought he saw someone standing at the far end. Someone with his build, his posture. He froze. The figure didn't move. "Hello," Jalen called. The lights flickered again. The figure was gone. Jalen exhaled shakily. "Just nerves," he muttered. But when he turned around, he nearly collided with Cade. "You saw something," she said. "How did you?" "It happens to everyone. The rig's inside the gravity well. Time folds. You'll see echoes. Sometimes ahead. Sometimes behind." Jalen swallowed. "Are they real?" Cade hesitated. "Real enough." Missing time. On his third day, Jalen woke in his bunk to find Holt shaking him. "Shift started an hour ago," Holt said. "You planning to sleep through the end of the universe?" Jalen groaned. "I set my alarm." "Yeah? It went off yesterday." Jalen sat up. "What?" Holt tossed him a ration bar. "You were gone for 12 hours. I was asleep." "No," Holt said. You weren't in your bunk. Jalen stared at him. Where was I? Holt shrugged. Ask yourself. Jalen checked the bunk's internal recorder. The footage showed him lying down, closing his eyes, and then nothing. 12 hours of static. When he arrived at Extraction Bay 3, Mara pulled him aside. You need to report any time loss, she said. I didn't lose time, Jalen insisted. You vanished, Mara said. People vanish here. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they don't. Jalen felt cold. What's happening to this place? Mara looked toward the viewport. We're too close. The rig wasn't built for this depth. But corporate wants the yield. And the crew. We're expendable. The scream. 2 days later, the rig shook violently. Alarms blared. The drilling arm had struck a dense pocket of exotic matter, causing a feedback surge. Jalen rushed to the console. Pressure's spiking. Shut it down, Mara shouted. I'm trying. The viewport flickered, and for a moment Jalen saw something impossible. A version of himself standing on the other side of the glass, skin charred, eyes hollow, mouth open in a silent scream. Then the image vanished. The drilling arm retracted with a metallic shriek. The alarm stopped, but Jalen couldn't stop shaking. Later, in the mess hall, he told Dr. Hale what he'd seen. Hale listened carefully. The black hole is pulling on more than matter, he said. It's pulling on identity, consciousness, memory. You're seeing fragments of possible futures. Possible? Jalen asked. Hale nodded. Not fixed, but the deeper we drill, the more likely they become. Jalen stared at his hands. So that burned version of me is one outcome, Hale said. Not the only one, but one the black hole wants you to see. The vanishing. The next disappearance happened during a routine maintenance cycle. Mara was inspecting a coolant conduit when she simply wasn't there anymore. One moment she was speaking to Holt. The next, the space she occupied was empty. Holt screamed her name, but there was no answer. The rig's internal sensors showed nothing. No heat signature. No movement. No trace. Dr. Hale looked pale. She's slipped, he said. Slipped where? Jalen demanded. Between, Hale whispered. Into the well. Cade clenched her fists. We need to leave. Now. Hale shook his head. The tether's locked. Corporate controls it remotely. They won't release us until the quota is met. Jalen felt sick. We're trapped. Hale nodded. Unless we cut the tether manually. Cade stared at him. That would drop us into the event horizon. Yes, Hale said. But staying here may be worse. The rig awakens. That night, Jalen couldn't sleep. The hum had grown louder, almost like a heartbeat. The walls seemed to pulse. The lights dimmed and brightened rhythmically. He walked the corridor, trying to clear his mind. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. Mara stood there. But her eyes were wrong, glassy, unfocused, as if she were looking through him. Mara, Jalen whispered. She opened her mouth. A distorted voice emerged, layered with echoes. You're already inside. Jalen backed away. What happened to you? Mara stepped forward, movements jerky, unnatural. The rig is inside. The well is inside. You are inside. Jalen ran. He didn't stop until he reached the mess hall, where he collapsed against a table, gasping. Cade found him minutes later. What happened? Mara, Jalen said. She's back. Cade's face hardened. No, she's not. The truth. Dr. Hale gathered the remaining crew in the command module. We've crossed a threshold, he said. The rig is no longer outside the event horizon. Holt shook his head. That's impossible. We'd be spaghettified. Not necessarily, Hale said. This black hole isn't behaving normally. This gravity well is layered, like nested shells. We've slipped into an inner layer without realizing it. Jalen felt his stomach twist. So we're inside the black hole? Not fully, Hale said, but close enough that time is fracturing. The rig is being stretched across multiple temporal states. That's why we're seeing echoes. That's why people vanish. And Mara? Cade asked. Hale hesitated. She may be alive in another layer. Or dead. Or both. Holt slammed his fist on the table. We need to get out. We can't, Hale said. Not unless we cut the tether. Cade looked at Jalen. If we do that, we fall. Jalen swallowed. And if we don't? Hale looked toward the viewport. Then the well will take us piece by piece. The descent. The next shift was the worst yet. The drilling arm malfunctioned, extending on its own. The rig shook violently. The hum became a roar. Jalen saw multiple versions of himself flickering in the reflection of the console. One screaming, one burned, one reaching out as if begging for help. He shut his eyes. When he opened them, the bay was empty. Holt was gone. Cade's voice crackled over the intercom. Jalen, get to the command module. Now. He ran. When he arrived, Cade and Hale were staring at the viewport. The accretion disk looked different. Closer, brighter, swirling faster. We're sinking, Hale said. The tether's failing. Cade grabbed Jalen's arm. We cut it now or we die here. Jalen looked at Hale. Is she right? Hale nodded slowly. The rig is being pulled inward. If we don't sever the tether, it will tear us apart across timelines. Jalen took a deep breath. Where's the manual release? Cade pointed. Maintenance deck 1. Jalen nodded. Let's go. The heart of the rig. Maintenance deck 1 was dark. The lights flickered erratically. The hum was deafening. As they approached the tether control panel, Jalen froze. Mara stood in front of it, or what was left of her. Her body flickered, shifting between states. Burned, whole, skeletal, screaming, silent. Her face changed with each flicker, cycling through versions of herself across countless timelines. Cade raised her weapon. Stay back. Mara, or the thing wearing her, tilted her head. You cannot leave. Hale stepped forward. Mara, if you can hear us. The creature screamed. The sound wasn't human. It was layered, fractal, echoing across time. The walls vibrated. The floor buckled. Cade fired. The creature flickered violently, then vanished. Jalen rushed to the panel. Help me! Cade and Hale joined him. Together they pulled the manual release lever. Nothing happened. Hale cursed. The tether's jammed. We need to override it from the core. Jalen stared at him. The core? That's right above the singularity. Hale nodded. Exactly. Into the core. The core chamber was the heart of Rig 47. A massive sphere of rotating rings, glowing with exotic energy. The air shimmered with gravitational distortions. As they entered, Jalen felt his body stretch and compress simultaneously. His vision blurred. He saw multiple versions of Cade and Hale flickering around him. Hale staggered. The well is inside us now. We need to move fast. They reached the override console. Cade typed rapidly. I can't access the tether controls. Something's blocking it. Jalen looked around. What? A voice answered. You. Jalen turned. He was staring at himself. But this version was older, burned, eyes hollow. You can't leave, the future Jalen said. We never leave. Cade raised her weapon. Jalen, move. Jalen hesitated. The future version stepped closer. If you cut the tether, we fall. If we fall, we die. If we stay, we become part of the well. Jalen shook his head. No, that's not true. It is, the future Jalen said. I've lived it, over and over. Cade fired. The future Jalen flickered, then dissolved into static. Jalen slammed his hand on the console. Do it! Cade hit the final command. The core screamed. The rig lurched. The tether snapped. Freefall. Rig 47 dropped. The accretion disk rushed upward. The viewport shattered. The lights exploded. The hum became a roar that tore through their minds. Jalen felt himself stretching across time, splitting into countless versions. He saw himself burned, mutated, screaming, laughing, dead, alive, falling forever. He saw Cade torn into fractal shards. He saw Hale dissolving into light. He saw Mara reaching for him from inside the well. He saw the black hole open like an eye. And then, silence. Aftermath. Jalen woke on a cold metal floor. The hum was gone. The lights were steady. He sat up slowly. He was in Extraction Bay 3. The drilling arm was idle. The viewport intact. The accretion disk below looked distant, harmless. Cade stood beside him. "You're awake," she said. Jalen blinked. "What happened?" "We cut the tether," Cade said. The rig snapped back. "Back. Out of the well," she said. "We're safe." Jalen looked around. "Where's Hale?" Cade hesitated. "He didn't make it." Jalen closed his eyes. Cade put a hand on his shoulder. "It's over." Jalen nodded slowly, but then he saw it. In the reflection of the viewport, a version of himself. Burned. Hollow-eyed. Smiling. Jalen froze. Cade followed his gaze. "What is it?" she asked. Jalen didn't answer, because the reflection raised its hand.